from your childhood is good. It's
Here, that's what EXP wrote. Nothing is good from your childhood. It's a weird little brand that multi-classes in tabletop game design, beard and skincare alchemy, and the Bardic College of Content Creation. I have never camped waiting for somebody to say a dumb thing until tonight, and that was great. That was such a great follow through on it. We are in our finale of our actual play of The Between. So if you're just joining us, welcome. If you are out there watching live right now, go tell a friend, go tweet a tweet. Would love to have a bunch of folks join us tonight. Last week, chat was popping off. Would love to have you here with us again. But I'm going to just hand things over to Jason while I go tell everybody in the +1 server we're live and have you catch us up and get us oriented to the game.
Yeah, I think I'm going to catch you all up just in turn here. And we're going to start where we left off with Septimus feasting lustily upon the impossible he-sow. Am I going to do the noise? I don't know. I'm going to keep you all waiting in anticipation. That's your future and forevermore, Septimus Redding. If you don't put on a mask, you will be stuck feasting upon the he-sow's teats for all eternity.
Hey guys, it's me, Vyn Wes. I hate it here. Please help me. Yeah, I'll put on, let's see. I guess another Mask of the Past.
I love it. Be thinking about that. We'll come back around to it in a moment. Lord Grey, you had just sloshed your way through a knee-high, waist-high, now chest-high pool of thick blood and water where little fetal things are swimming about like oversized tadpoles, and the woman, the white, in the middle, inside a shaft of glowing light, has offered you absolution, my child, but you have refused it. I would like the night move, please. What are you afraid is going to happen right now in this scene if your refusal is not taken well?
I'm afraid that she's going to drag me down into this nasty, nasty water with her and make me stay.
It's worse than that. You will be dragged down by the little babies, and the little babies will feast upon you, and they will grow with your power.
How rude.
Please go ahead, and this is going to be with sensitivity, I'd say. And because you're disgusted, I'm going to put you at disadvantage as well.
Of course. Okay, we're just that's not...
Vyn, you want to pull your mic in a little closer?
Yes, I can. That's a 4.
A 4. We'll come back to you as well. Langfisk, you found another clue. I'll remind you, the question is, how do we get the entity of this realm, the lord of this realm, to be drawn to us? The opportunity is to do battle with it and then escape. You found something in the ruin of She That Feeds. What was it?
Goodness gracious. Let's say it is a lattice work of intestinal flesh that looks almost like like netting in standard, almost like a dream catcher almost.
Intriguing.
It's in, yeah. A
That's a good
lattice
clue.
work, yeah.
That's a good clue. Intriguing indeed. Dr. Aspectum, you have pulled off your outer skin to reveal that which is beneath. There's a clue in it. What is it? What do we see, first of all, and what's underneath?
Yeah,
The
we saw last time as we talked about it. Nox had turned into this giant, taller, broad-shouldered, very obviously the biological son of Charles version of himself, pulsing with creative energy and dripping blood that grew flowers. And when he carved that back and peeled it off, a version of him that looked quite normal. His normal self was beneath that, and we saw this shattering kind of across time of all the different lenses that had perceived him. Wes, say the clue you said just one more time. So I don't want to tread in too much the same space, and I'm a little worried I might.
A lattice work of intestinal flesh.
Lattice work of intestinal flesh. Yeah, I think the shattered lens is the clue. I think that's the clue we're gonna pull out of that. I don't think self-actualization is a good clue. So it's a great thing. It's a bad clue.
In general, it's a good thing.
Yeah,
Yes, bad clue.
But yeah, I think a shattered lens is what we're gonna go with.
Interesting. Very good. Somebody note that down for me. Let's just keep going. We're going to eventually get you all back together. Septimus, you're going to narrate your Mask of the Past. In the doing of it, I'd also like to know what about this recollection or flashback is what ultimately allows you to escape this place and not be drawn in by the heat sound.
I mean, I think it's like a leveled association. I think they're pulling from another memory, so it's not as disgusting now.
Yeah, that's good. Let's have that memory.
And as he breaks from air, like from this thing, Tim's head goes back in a soft cry to a much gentler place, a bed, pillows, kind of sun setting, and realizing what happens, he looked down to this a succubus. Because what else do you have your first demonic encounter with? She's beaming up at him. And I guess that's the form she takes. I'm kidding. But she's admiring him. He's very awkward and confused. I don't think I meant to take things that far. You can go. Goodbye. I'm going to get dressed and walk out of this room now. Thank you. And just teeters out. She's just shaking her head, still proud and amused at this dumb little creature. And I think putting two and two together, he realizes he can just leave. And just as abrupt, just as awkward.
Very good. Lord Grey, you got a miss.
I did.
I'll take over the fiction for a moment. I'm so very, very sorry to hear that. I believe there is a better you just waiting to be born. I believe that your evil is nothing in comparison to the fantastic force of creation. And if you will not accept my gift, then you must power that force I fear. This will be better for you if you fall back, arms spread. Give yourself willingly. Or it can be more painful. And that's when you start to feel their little piranha teeth nipping at your legs, at your thighs. Yes, Langfisk, you can my person Friday here somehow.
Are you joking? Oh my god!
I see your hand raised.
I had to. I was like, now's the time.
They are grabbing, they are biting. By the time you arrive, Langfisk, you see Lord Grey splashing around, slinging his arms, these little nasty tadpole fetus things, like biting and clawing, their little flesh tails whipping in his face. Let's read the move, Langfisk. What does it say?
Once per session, you can appear at any scene at any time ready for action. If there is an object or tool that would be helpful in that scene, you have it on hand. Add it to your personal quarters. I think kind of reiterate the space, like the surrounding kind of like space.
It's like an underground lake of blood, basically.
It's
An
just wet.
underground lake
It's
of
wet.
blood. It's wet. Where I just came from a cave filled with boat. I think we see Langfisk like just like come up from the lake, just like drenched in blood. And then sees the writhing and the wriggling and everything like that. And it's just like the eyes narrow and it's just dark, just covered in blood, dark against like the background and everything like that. And then is going to let's just say with just shattered bones, shattered femurs, just daggers, I guess we could say. It's just gonna start like trying to just work through this group of like baby piranha babies. Yeah.
I love it. Night move. What do you pray is going to happen if you fail? You can totally implicate Lord Grey because Lord Grey is already at my mercy.
Well,
on this roll.
I'm afraid I'm not gonna get to. I'm only gonna get to Lord Grey's skeleton. Nothing else.
Very good. It's worse than that. You will then also be consumed by the white.
Oof.
Let's go ahead and have that roll. It's going to be with vitality. You would get advantage regardless because you're defending Lord Grey, but
Yeah. Perfect. Whoa. Okay. Advantage with vitality. That's 4 on 1 dice, 5 on 1 dice. That's 9. Plus vitality, which is 3. That's a 12.
nice. I'll give you a clue as
Boy.
well in the scene. Something about this situation will be not helpful knowledge in the form of a clue. If chat wants to help us out with that, that'd be great. But give us the scene, Langfisk. Save Lord Grey for the umpteenth time.
Yeah. I think that we just see that breaking of the blood water, the blood pool and everything, and then with the shattered femurs, seeing the writhing on the ground. We've just witnessed everything that Langfisk has forgotten is gone and everything. So the only thing that's there that Langfisk realizes and remembers is Lord Grey, and just erupts in a roar. And that braying of like with this mule form, and then just charges forward and just starts digging femur into little demon piranha thing, ripping apart, throwing a lot of more silhouettes and everything, and then just kicking things, probably getting bit himself and just like throwing them apart until finally like being able to pull Lord Grey from that horde.
The four of you find yourselves in the cabin once again. The power of the six broken. Let's have the scene.
Important question. Are we still wet?
I don't think so. I think you're all just
thank
as you were
God.
before. Yeah.
Just fucks himself over. Wow, this is something. And he looks over to Langfisk, like where you got bit. And I assume there's nothing.
I would say probably not, no. Yeah.
Huh. Well, I was going to ask if you were okay, but seems we all
I
are.
think.
Okay. So can we leave or what?
I would hope so. I think my siblings are too talented.
You really need to have a word with them. Just about this
can't.
whole...
Well, no, I don't think I'm having any word with them anytime soon.
Okay. I'll put it in a note next time you see them.
I'll make sure they'll have a strongly worded letter from Lord Grey.
Good. Jesus. Looks over at Nox. Nox, do you look different now? Do you look like your old self?
Is that change permanent, Jason?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think for somebody who takes people in the way that Gray does, you probably notice subtle changes. There's a level of confidence to Nox, a level of presence that they're like not in the there's no min-maxing happening here. But just in the sense of he seems more settled and more aware of what's happening in the moment than he typically does. But other than that, he appears the same.
So did you find out anything, good doctor?
I don't particularly like your sibling Septimus, but they seem harmless enough.
Pardon?
Yes, one of them was playing with toys, building a little city. The other, beautiful, cold, calculating, talented, but
Great.
No. I think those were the creatures that were bound by them individually. No, those weren't. My little sibling, they were all spider creatures in my room.
That's a shame.
The seventh room.
So you're telling me your sibling isn't some three-headed wolf in a cave, then?
No, they would wish.
It'd be far more interesting if they were.
Wait, are you a spider creature, like, legitimately? Or, like, are you human skin? It's like, is that what that is?
No, I
Because
think
you
this
really
is-
should have told me. That's really interesting.
No, I don't think that this is that you then, if you're asking that question.
Well, no, you said you're, listen, that's not important.
No, I won't.
No.
Please.
No.
You answered the
So
answer.
we to get out, do we have a sense of what the plan is? What we need to do?
Get out of this hole, I assume.
You're all in the cabin now.
Yeah, we're back.
Oh, we're back in the cabin. Oh, did we just get transported
Yeah, we
back
just
to the
You're just
cabin?
back
transported
in the
back
cabin.
out. Yeah.
Never mind, I didn't say
The-
that.
The hatch is not even there anymore.
Yeah.
I think we might need to see if the storm has passed, and mayhaps we could traverse farther, closer to our goal.
What was the complexity of this threat, Jason?
The question is 6.
The question, thank you.
And we're about to get an 8th clue. Really good one from Amanda. From the white, perhaps a drop of blood that won't wipe off.
Love it.
That's great.
Spicy.
That's probably enough to answer the question. There are
Yeah.
only 2 other possible clues to get, which is if the 2 characters who did not handle an object in the cabin do so now.
I'm good with a +2 if we can make all these fit. Look, I went in a hole for a reason.
We all went in a hole. We all went in a hole, and then some of us done through drama. I respect it. I respect it.
No, I'm very cool with a +2 if you two, unless you two want to find
Yeah,
out. Like, listen,
yeah, I'm fine
me
with
and Langfisk are
+2.
done. Like, this is
Yeah,
Oh,
there's
don't we wanna
only-
do any more match for the team?
You got. I mean, I think Septimus still has plenty of space to do a mask of the past because Septimus, you were one of the ones who went straight down the hole, right?
Mhm.
And Nox, you're the other one, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
You still got a couple of
I have a
spots too,
couple.
or you can save them as well.
Hey, when you say it like that means we should say.
The choice is yours.
Oh God.
I'm very excited to try to answer a question.
8 is not a bad number.
Mhm.
Let's check in on the clues itself. So I'll remind you that the question is basically how do we draw the Lord of this realm to us so that we can battle it, whatever that
God.
means, in order to get out of this place. Your clues are following very particular rules of etiquette, an act of debasement, an entropic wheel, hundreds of silken spider eggs, the lattice work of intestinal flesh, the Fool, withered hand overturning the Fool card, a shattered lens, a drop of blood that won't wipe off. If chat has thoughts, I'd love to hear it. Sure, the players would as well.
I have a loose thought. Unless if anybody else has something.
I've got some thematic concepts. Why don't you start with your loose thought?
Are you no. Please start with your thematic concepts because mine is like literally just riffing off of what's there.
How about y'all both start at the same time?
We're gonna do it 3, 2. So,
Okay, yeah. No.
so I think for me, there are kind of two things, a couple things that feel connected to me, like 2 sets of things that feel connected. I do love following particular etiquette rules, an act of debasement, and honestly, the Fool all feel somewhat connected to me because I think it was
Same
like
brain.
a leash or a choker that was the act of debasement also too. So it feels like a good theme there. Also, we've got a lot of then complex and semi-organic images, right? So we've got hundreds of silken spider eggs, we've got the lattice work of intestinal flesh, and we've got a shattered lens that are all various versions of non like symmetrical shapes or other things like that. A drop of blood that won't wipe up, an entropic wheel, I think are the 2 kind of where are we going with this? But those are the 2 kind of themes of things that pop out to me.
Yeah, I mean, like my thought was that same brain, Tony. It was like I was like, okay, so we're going to have to follow some weird Fey etiquette and debate. Somebody's going to have to debase themselves, or all of us will, and like the Fool feels very like, the precipice part of the Fool. Like if we're looking at the card, like the
Stepping
physical
off the precipice.
yeah, the physical precipice that they're on. The blood kind of, this is just because we're kind of almost in the vessel's realm, like a blood sacrifice kind of vibe. That's where I'm getting. The wheel could be like a metaphor.
I
I
think
don't-
I've got something.
Please.
Okay, so the act of debasement is the act of sacrificing one's self anyways. It's to putting yourself as low. You're there like you are like an animal, essentially. An entropic wheel might be an altar of some sorts, and you have to literally build it. Some of these things being materials for it. With a lattice work of intestinal like a shattered lens being kind of like the spokes of a wheel. like like from a shattering point, the shattered out might be the
What if it's a
spokes of the
web?
wheel.
Yeah.
And then the web, a
web
lattice
on
work
the
of intestinal
shatter.
flesh, around it to encase it.
I-
And then using hundreds of silken spider eggs within it, or almost like spoke points or something.
Yeah.
And then a drop of blood that won't wipe off is the final like peg, like when you like on carriages, on old carriages, there was like a peg for the center spoke for the center of the wheel to keep it on the axle. So maybe that drop of blood that won't wipe off, that is the final, like that's the final point of it. That's a lot of rambling. That's a lot of me doing a
I
lot
like
of
it.
like
Like a sacrificial offering very much was already kind of in the back of my head with some of this, and I love that direction.
I like the idea of the Fool card, what B was saying about like stepping off the precipice, because you're all literally on the peak of a mountain.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting. And I think it's really interesting. There's something visually quite cool about the idea of the entity is below the mountain, sitting on a gigantic cosmic web.
yeah.
Oh, that's
It,
cool.
it also brings back some of the Gossamer thread and strand stuff.
It
from
does, yeah. It
earlier,
brings all
like-
that back. Gives that
Yeah.
all like a little bit of like. It also goes into this idea of creation, which I think is really interesting.
Mhm.
But I
Yes,
think that like
the
the
spinning of creation.
yeah, the shatter on the lens, the lattice work pattern, like that all implies web to me.
Mhm.
I don't know what. But that's kind of where my brain is going. Like there's something beneath the mountain, like the web is down there, right? You have to go to it, perhaps. I don't know.
Is the
You know-
entropic wheel like a spinning wheel and not a?
I have to confess, I don't even know what that is.
Oh no,
Yeah,
it's
you just
two
said
words I
words.
threw together as a clue.
Oh.
Yeah, no,
Oh.
Tony. This is Tony's
It has-
problem.
it
and now
has-
it's solving.
okay, it's nothing. Got it.
Yeah, no, you don't.
I was like,
like-
what
like-
is this?
A wheel that somehow interacts with entropy. That's all. But like a wheel of
A
A
unmaking.
wheel to use in tandem with a loom,
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of
Okay.
I see chat is I decided that the entity is a spider, which I'm really glad
Which,
we're all
yeah,
kind of
I'm-
on board.
We're all
with.
kind of leaning on this spider idea, which I think is
Yeah,
kind
the,
of cool.
the web
Yeah.
and the like.
Because
Yeah.
Tim's siblings are spiders, and it just kind of works. Well, they were spidery.
I mean, if we take a look at the clues, I mean, I think the lens, the lattice work, that all like really fits really well. The silken spider eggs might even be just like a really like on the nose clue. Like, hey, just so you know.
In
You should
case
be
you
thinking
were
spiders. I don't
unsure
know.
about it, it's
Yeah.
it's spiders.
Those three or those three clues feel really well accounted for. Stepping off of the precipice, indicating that it's perhaps below the mountain, feels really good for the Fool card one. Not sure about. I mean, the debasement could be an act. It could be that this is an act of sacrifice.
Yeah.
It could be that the debasement and the etiquette could just be an implication of like you have to go to her territory, right? Like you have to go there. She doesn't come to you. I don't know.
Then what do you think? You've I saw you on mute.
Oh no, I just wanted to laugh.
Oh my god, I love you.
So having a web, everything, following very particular etiquette rules. So probably going down to her, essentially having the act of debasement. So somebody debasing themselves at that point to draw her up to that point that we could like meet her at. And then following particular etiquette rules when dealing with her.
Or instead of bringing her up with like a web, but like you know how spiders are usually hidden on their webs. They're not like just sitting out in the fucking middle unless they're like a certain kind. But it's like you have to like debase yourself in front of this cosmic web of creation to get her to come out and talk to us or face us.
Yeah,
or
I feel like
whatever.
it's as simple as like just diving down into the web and like being willing to be caught on the web like a fly.
Like a
my-
fly, yeah.
Chat funnel web structure. That's upsetting. Funnel webs are upsetting.
Are the
like Amanda said, like a trap fly to get her attention.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's really like
Yeah.
salient here. especially with the clues you have.
Yeah.
The only one
Perfect.
is did we say the final drop of blood is that like a sacrifice idea? Or did we
Well, we
the-
were
the-
leaning
the
more
blood
towards
and
a
the
wheel. We were.
Yeah, the blood of the wheel, the only two things I can't account for in this.
I mean, okay, like Sleeping Beauty style, like the pricking your finger on the spinning wheel type shit. Like, I don't know. I'm throwing things
Are
out.
the-
you have to
are
take
the-
1d6 of damage and
Yeah. I mean, maybe, yeah, like using the silken spider eggs and entropic wheel for utilize and weaving, and a drop of blood that won't wipe off is a way to like draw her in. I don't know,
Or like
Maybe.
Do-
I'm
go ahead, Ben.
Oh, I was just gonna say possibly the blood that won't wipe off, going with the spider eggs, like maybe part of the sacrifice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my thought was, is the so if it's an entropic wheel, like so if it's a wheel of unmaking, and like I mean the fool also times like doesn't it represent like naivete or like innocence also too?
Or the beginning of a journey as well.
Right.
yeah,
But-
beginning of a journey. Yeah.
Could it be that we have to like essentially unmake these babies in order to have like the rope we need to make our way down? Like are they the two items that you like two things that we need to like is it not only our own sacrifice but like the sacrifice of something naive or young or that is beginning
A drop of blood that won't wipe off, like innocent blood.
yeah, and then like yes, and then the drop of blood that won't wipe, and so like this will in some way, shape, or form stain or mark the people who do it.
Oh.
So none of us can sacrifice, right? So like, who? I don't think we have.
I
Maybe
mean,
Tim.
I kind of like the idea of one of you has to like have their blood spilled.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But it's just somebody said innocent blood. I'm like, oh, so that's none
Yeah.
of us. Like, oh no.
Innocent blood. Knox just like reaches into his like archive of blood and is like,
Yeah.
Like, which one
Well,
was
I
it?
got an
let
innocent
me
in
let
here
me
somewhere.
let me look and see what.
Let's see what chat's up to.
That's up to some wild stuff, man.
Yeah,
I'm loving it.
Warden Milo says maybe injuring yourself and dripping the blood on the spider eggs. Like, I don't think that there are spider eggs. Like, there are no like. I think this is more of like a symbol.
That's
but
fine.
I
Oh,
don't-
okay.
But I'm
okay.
not remembering. Were there actually spider eggs somewhere?
there were a whole
that's what-
bunch.
that-
Yeah,
in Tim's siblings' cave.
Oh,
yeah?
the seventh room. Okay, I like the idea. Okay, well then we can say that like in the spot where that was, maybe those eggs are there, or maybe you just have them now. They're in the cabin. I think that's perfectly fine. I think it's okay if they're also just a symbolic thing. We have Amanda says maybe the wheel of entropy represents some sort of organized chaos, maybe something like messing up the web so it's not orderly. Oh, that's an interesting idea.
Oh, I like that. I also do just want to note that each of your characters has a form of blood as a personal item on them. Even to go so far as that Nox has fresh blood.
Oh my
I know what I
God.
got. Which is a
Or
great
Nox's
question. Do we have our
inventory.
items? Because Jason, previously we only had one item each.
I still only have one item.
Oh
But
my
I don't have any of
God.
that fresh blood with me.
Yeah, I feel like we're getting there.
Chaotic's brain and my brain are in the same place.
Chaotic says, I keep
thinking
thinking that
Yeah, go ahead.
unmaking of a person could be a form of debasement. I keep returning to hope. That's Hope. Oh, that's interesting. Hope's not here.
I mean, I don't want
Thank
Hope to
God.
get unmade, but like that,
Yeah.
that thought is.
That would be deeply ironic, though, right? If this is what is needed.
We can get more fresh blood. Correct. There are a few of us
Yeah.
who definitely have blood.
I mean,
Okay.
The su-
Following particular etiquette rules, the spider, you come to the spider, it doesn't come to you.
Yeah.
The hundreds of silken spider eggs can just simply speak to the idea that it's spider, as can the shattered lens and the latticework intestine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
cool.
the fool could be. I think you jump down onto it, but
I like that personally.
I think that's good. The act of debasement and the entropic wheel, the drop of blood that won't wipe off. The drop of blood that won't wipe off and the act of debasement probably is a sacrifice of some sort that will draw the spider to you once you're on the web. The drop of blood that won't wipe off just being kind of a symbolic idea of you all are going to have to make a decision that you might have, that you're going to have to live with, basically.
Yeah.
Hear me out about the wheel. Maybe since this spider is a god and she's some sort of creator god, maybe her web is upon this ever-turning wheel that is like literally entropy, like, and creation at the same time. And it's like this balance that she's like constantly fighting against.
The world is on the back of a turtle, which is
Yeah,
a
you
shell.
see what I'm saying? Yeah,
But
you see what I'm
instead,
saying?
the world is on an entropic wheel that is being spun by a spider seamstress god.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, you get what I'm saying. You get it. You get it.
See the spider of enormous girth and marvel at the entropic wheel of actor of stage and screen Colin Firth. No, I don't know. I know. I like
I'm just
that.
saying
That's
shit. I'm
something
just
with it.
saying
I don't.
shit.
Yeah. We're oh God, we're so willing to get wild with it and weird with it.
I mean, that was the only ever outcome for this, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I mean,
I think
even without the entropic wheel, you've got
Plus
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You've still got +1. So
there's plenty of things you can do with an entropic wheel once you're down there. You know what I'm saying?
Once we're down there, like we have it, like somebody's just carrying it.
Maybe we have to bind her to an entropic wheel.
I mean, that
or
is one
something
that I
like
literally did say I picked.
I mean, we
pulled
don't
it
have
out
to
of
debase
the-
ourselves.
Yeah.
Maybe we have to debase the god.
Oh,
Oh.
that's interesting. Well, but that all just speaks to the solution. We're just trying to get to her.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
that's
Okay.
true.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Okay.
so-
Well, let's leave the entropic wheel.
Okay.
Let's leave
Okay.
just in case.
All right.
I mean, the only other thing I can think of, because I mean, the time to spend the clue is now. There's no other time.
Oh.
Is that the entropic wheel is just an insight into what she is, and that's why she can't come to you, because she has to be doing this or something. I don't know.
An insight into like the god's nature,
Into her nature,
rather
yeah.
than
Or like-
kind of like the
Like
yeah.
she is an ever-turning wheel of chaos and unending. That is one of the reasons that she cannot come to us.
Right. Yeah. She has to. I think like baby. I like the idea of like it's a constant flux of like destruction and creation. Right. That she's kind of like there spinning. Right.
spinning and destroying.
Yeah, if we treat it as more of just like a sort of symbolic thing, I think that kind of explains why you have to go to her. I think that that works. The rest of the clues are really, really solid as well. Like I mean, just the idea of the sacrifice. I think like the nature of that sacrifice is probably going to depend on how well you roll. Just throwing that out there.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah, I love it.
You still got to roll.
We're doing
It's going to be
plus
+2. Yeah.
Anybody feeling it?
It's Tony's
I love you
problem.
all.
It's Tony's.
That's a
It's
3.
Tony's time,
That's
hotties.
a 3. That is a 4. So +2 is a 9.
You
A
scared
9.
the shit out of me.
The complication, if you don't bump it up, is going to be... The complication, if you don't bump it up, is going to be that there's a chance that you don't even get to do anything once you get down there because the sight of her shatters you completely.
That's fine.
Tony's like, that's fine.
We all want to put on the mask of the entropic wheel, the mask that they just made up.
You can bump it up if everybody marks Janus mask, as usual.
I'm gonna mark the cosmic passage because I think it's funny.
Okay.
That's one vote for marking mask. I need you all to lock in.
All I've got is masks of past. So yeah, I will mark I'll mark a mask of the past. Narrate a flashback that shows how you had to engage in emotional labor in order to please or soothe your employer.
What? You mean like every session?
That's 2 locked in.
All right, I'll do it.
I'm gonna mark the moss-covered gate and attempt to bring the child to life.
Mike.
It's there to be marked, even though it does nothing.
God.
And
Yeah. I'll mark the cosmic passage because it is the only one to do with the masterwork, and I feel like that's really thematically appropriate.
well, Langfus, you said you were. What was the one that you have to? What do you have to narrate again?
I have to narrate a flashback that shows how I had to engage in emotional labor in order to please or
Oh,
soothe my employer.
how debasing. This feels like we're getting an active debasement in you flashing back to this as you all step off the edge of the mountain and plunge to the web at the bottom of the universe.
Oh, that's so good.
I see that there is a moment of just almost even like this is like a memory almost kind of fleeting as every focus that Linkfisk has, we see another chain almost strengthening in between the two of them, formulating as this memory is being pulled from Linkfisk, probably directly to Lord Grey. That is the leading of the length of the chain from this collar that's woven into the neck of Linkfisk. We see this moment of uh Lord Grey with an outfit very resplendent, a nice like a nice light red gold trim, the white hair done up with curls. Um there's like a series of accessories, jewelry, a cane, of course, with this outfit and a mask. And we see Langfisk has prepared Lord Grey this way, has gone through all the process of listening to Lord Grey and like taking Lord Grey's instruction, and they go to a banquet. And at this banquet, Lord Grey sees someone wearing a similar outfit. It is a different color, but it seems to be of a similar cut. And there's like it just seems to be a similar theme. To which that point, Langfisk has to go back and undo the entire outfit and remake it completely differently. Has to go through and redesign everything. And in the entirety of that process, having to go through and explain to Lord Grey the differences that he's making from that outfit. They never go back to the party. This party's long past, but this is a time where they just remove themselves. And it's just a long, intense weeks upon of making this outfit again. And then finally, Langfisk having to prepare Lord Grey for the next banquet and hoping that maybe, just maybe, it is completely different and ready. And that entire time, Lord Grey having a Howl from Howl's Moving Castle level of just like, I need to change my hair and everything is awful, and like Langfisk having to do everything for him, having to like take on all of like the duties of being a nurse and like making sure he eats and bathes himself and keeps himself clean and everything. Yeah, and that's just formulated and strengthened in that link.
I would like for the rest of you to please describe what it feels like to plummet down, down into a swirling torrent of chaos and creation.
Strangely enough, it feels like being born. Tunnels of life coming from death, or who knows, and Tim just accepts it.
B.
Do you have anything? I didn't want to like.
I have
interrupt
one, but
you.
yeah, either way.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I think there is a moment where you can't tell the difference between the temperature of your skin and the temperature of the air around you, as if you're being surrounded in that womb. And at the same time, we start to see down below us this cacophony of art and deep space and calculus and science playing out across the clouds and the depths as we descend, being brought into and out of creation, existing for a moment and then being utterly destroyed.
And I think as we plummet, there is a soft cacophony. It's not overwhelming because it's almost muffled here. But in this cacophony, each one of us can make out the voice of someone we love.
You find yourselves floating on islands of creation. Sometimes you are very big. Sometimes you are incredibly small. Sometimes you are old. Sometimes you are young. Sometimes you are life, and sometimes you are death. She is rising up to meet you. Her many eyes focusing on you like intensive floodlights as they crawl up from the mist and the shadow. Spindly crystalline legs, the width of ancient oaks, the length of ships, crawl up, pull up. Her vastness, swirling, nightmarish, beautiful. You must battle her to escape. You can interpret battle however you wish. But the rule is I need 3 hits. 3 hits total. Every miss condition applies to all hunters. If you have the weapon, you can make a single roll at double advantage. This might be a good time, Vyn, to tell us what the weapon is that Septimus has.
I have to Google something real quick, make sure I have the right bone. I guess it is. I'm just going to call it the wishbone as a tuning fork.
As you all exist in this moment, maybe you're aware of each other, maybe you're not. Maybe you're standing on solid ground, maybe you're not. Maybe you are above the entity, maybe you're below. Maybe you're everywhere, maybe you're nowhere. But the question is, what do you see around you that shows how easily she makes and unmakes?
I think this is paint the scene-esque?
It is indeed paint the scene. Yeah.
Fabulous. I think in the threads of her web, we see, at least I see, reflections of realities, offshoots of decisions we could have made, decisions we never could have made, and watch them be unmade further down the thread. And everything eventually is destroyed and created over again.
There are hanging like marionettes in a marionette theater, half formed or partially formed silk doll versions of ourselves, but also of other characters that maybe we might have played in other playthroughs of The Between, or maybe some of the OCs of the people that are watching playing that are just hanging silently like mannequins or marionettes.
She spins a version of hope into existence right before Nox's eyes and then pulls her apart with incredible ease.
The cacophony is made of different sounds of creation and death.
Who wishes to step up to the plate first and battle her in your way, whatever that may be, however that may look? Describe how you're doing it.
I mean, I'm itching for this double advantage after a lifetime.
This is your
double
ritual of chewed, by the way. But we're not going to do it like they did in Stephen King's It, to be clear. I say again, Septimus, you've got your weapon. What are you going to do?
Oh, I was just ready to roll double advantage.
Vyn's just ready to come back after all the double disadvantage with a moment of
Exactly.
Well, you've been describing a lot of like sonic based things, so it sounds like maybe you're going to do something with the tuning fork in that sense. Then, what are you hoping to accomplish? What will this look like if you succeed?
What I would like to do is essentially like use the tuning fork to pluck the web and probably give her like a little disadvantage of her own. Fuck with the web.
Very good, very good. I don't think any of your conditions will actually apply, but I will ask you this. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
I'm afraid I'm going to fall.
It's going to happen. It's worse than that. It's going to happen to all of you. This is it. You all just plummet into chaos. But you're rolling at double advantage, and it's going to be sensitivity 3. So this is like the best possible roll. It's a good way to start. Was it bad?
It was like 2 2s, a 3, and a 4, but that does make a 10.
Okay, well, there you go. You're entitled to narrate this, but I actually have an idea, Vyn, if you don't mind.
Hey, go ahead.
You pull out your tuning fork, this weapon that was given to you by the trapper, and it was the exact right thing. This swirling chaos, when you hit the tuning fork, when you resonate with these sounds, this swirling chaos, this weird making and unmaking, this twisting, this like, what are you? Are you a body? Are you consciousness? Are you an amoeba? What are you? It all just evens out. And you all just hear a sort of and now the 4 of you are just standing in front of the spider. Standing in her shadowy gossamer realm. She's a titanic spider, don't get it twisted. Very big, crystalline, with glowing eyes that when she focuses them on you, seem to look straight through you, and indeed are always looking into other dimensions. But she's vulnerable. You have to make 2 more hits. Who's next?
So Go ahead, Wes.
I think Lang Fisk is going to utilize all these chains that are connected to Lord Grey, and we're going to try to utilize from my second favorite Star Wars film, Empire Strikes Back, to tangle up in this spider's legs, much like the cables from a snow what are the snow shows? I don't fucking know. Get at the comments, Star Wars nerds.
On Hoth,
Yeah,
yeah.
on Hoth, and then trip up the
Yeah.
legs. Yeah, using the chain. Cinemite the heck out of this. Exactly. Yeah.
I love it. So
Perfect.
good. This is going to be with Vitality. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
That I am going to I'm going to get tangled up in my own chains myself.
Indeed. It's and it's worse than that. She just summarily kills all of you. Let's go ahead and have some dice. This is going to be with Vitality. At least it's a good roll for you, though.
Good roll for me. Okay. That is a 6 and a 1, which is 1 is a 7 plus 3, 10.
10. Describe how she is vulnerable, even more so.
Oh yeah, anime, Jujutsu Kaisen, Attack on Titan, Chainsaw Man, all that stuff, running with like Lord Grey kind of getting tugged around these chains, whipping around like pillars that are in this like gossamer kind of realm, in between her legs, tangling them. Until there's like almost like Solomon attached to the column, this mule form of Lang Fisk is pulling tight, and she's pulling tight with her legs, and there's just a little bit more, and then just one last look at Lord Grey kind of holding on a little bit, and then just tugging one last time between two legs, and then just tripping this spider goddess entity over,
It
tumbling over.
roars out in confusion and anger, but the roar sounds like glass breaking. It sounds like frost cracking. Who wants to finish this situation?
So, as the spider kind of is brought down to its knees, on the ground, Nox comes closer in absolute curiosity and looks directly into its multifaceted interdimensional eyes. And what I really want to do here is he wants to look in and divine a secret of creation from this creature.
I like this. It's almost like a Loki trickster Prometheus way of defeating her, right? You take something from her. That's really good. That's going to be with reason.
I don't suppose you're going to let me
And-
use my custom move, or when I approach a creature with compassion or reason, I roll with
No.
advantage. I don't get that.
I'm not. I will not put you at disadvantage for the nature of life and death, however.
That sounds like a fair trade-off.
What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
I'm afraid that my mind will be entirely drained and it will suck me into itself. And then when my compatriots kill this creature, I will die with it.
Okay, I like that. It's worse than that. She escapes. She tricks you and escapes, and then slaughters you all. Go ahead and roll with reason, please.
Got 5. Got 2. That's going to be a 7. So it's only a 9.
Fantastic. If you don't bump it up, only the other 3 escape. And you're there with her.
We see Nox about a decade before we see him in the first scene of the actual play. He's come home. He's in his room. There's a dour mood over the household. He gets down and looks under the bed and remembers he hid there when his father was passing. And when he hears the heavy voice that says, "It's time, Lord Grey," it's not Charles at the door. It's a different valet who has come to take his responsibilities. Knox hasn't learned his name, and it doesn't matter. He leads them not through the rich, lush halls of the house, but to the servants' quarters, to a well-appointed room, as Charles lays on the bed, coughing, skin sallow, eyes sunken in. His breathing is deep and shallow. Lord Knox goes and sits next to him. He starts to try to tap on his chest and listen. And Charles's hand pushes him away. Says, "Just sit, Nicholas. Just sit with me." I'm gonna mark the mask of what it was like when I first realized that the person I love was slipping away from me.
Fantastic. London. The streets are teeming with people. Everywhere you turn, hundreds of people, in some squares, thousands of people pressing against each other, going about their business, music blaring beneath the neon glow of towering signs and billboards, advertising all manner of luxury products, modern day comforts, synthetic alterations that can be had for a very reasonable price. Every now and then, a picture of young Queen Victoria flashes across. Everyone in the streets stops and salutes as she enters into her 310th year of her reign. For over 300 years, you were trapped in the fragrant void. In that time, young Queen Victoria, immortal, and her little-seen advisor, Mrs. Brathwaite, some say lover, have built a global Pax Britannica, with the exception of a few occasional flare-ups in different parts of the empire, an incredibly peaceful and prosperous time. We are going to go to Epilogue for your characters. I need to know a few things. First of all, it's a chance for you all to have final scenes together. But also, I need to know, are you joining the resistance movement? Are you going to go to work to defeat Queen Victoria? Or are you going to accept her prosperity, which comes at the very small price of a little bit of your freedom and the occasional oppression of groups outside of Britain? And furthermore, I'd like to know what's going on with some of the characters who might have also lasted this long. Hidden, perhaps, somewhere in Hargrave House. But in any case, we're going to take a break. 15 minutes, so you all can think about your character's end. If you want any last scenes with any of the other characters, do tell. Get that sorted out on the break. Also, if your Janus mask has indicated that you must, or your any other element of your character sheet indicates you have to have a certain outcome, be ready to narrate that as well. 15-minute break. Tony, take us there.
We'll be back in just 1 second to keep on playing The Between. When I say 1 second, 15 minutes is what I mean. Just FYI to be clear with everybody. We'll be back in 15 minutes.
it's wild to see B like this.
And we are back for our the Between epilogue, set in the far future of, we don't know an exact year, so it's been 300 something years, and it's the future.
Indeed. My work is done here for this campaign. You have nothing left from me, but all of you still have some final scenes to do. Frame up your final scenes as many as you wish until we're done, until we see what the end of your character is. Whoever wants to go first, take it away.
No one. All right,
Well,
Ben,
I
you want to hit
think-
it?
Yeah, Ben hit it. Did you unmute?
I didn't, but you know what? Since I've been put up to the plate, maybe if we don't say anything, the campaign never ends. I'm kidding. What we do see is Tim absolutely shell-shocked. And you just hear a very soft and crescendoing no, 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 no. It just backing up and essentially unstitches themselves from this universe. And I think what happens is that Tim is trying to figure out where they went wrong. It may be in what different realities they could spin or possibly weave where things didn't turn out this way. Maybe if they killed Lord Grey, maybe if they killed Langfist, maybe if they never returned back to Hargrave House and Patrick stayed the entire time. And with all these different outcomes, they come to the same result. Going forward and making more and more pacts and contracts with demons, and unfortunately becoming even more spider-like, to infer, if I may, that Septimus was the spider goddess of chaos and destruction and wheeling. The reason the trapper knew the weapon of her destruction because he knew it was Tim.
Wes, did you want to have a scene before we have our epilogues? Or should we not discuss this at all and just sort of go?
Let's just go. Let's
Fuck
just
yeah.
go. Yeah.
All right. I will leave it to y'all. Who wants to go? Unless you want me to go first.
I think it's got to be
Go ahead.
Lord Grey first.
I think it's
Oh.
got to be Lord Grey.
All
Yeah.
right. Similarly, shell-shocked at first, but acclimates maybe a little too quickly. Because he realizes there's an interesting power dynamic going on here. There's something to be gained. There's no reason to join some sort of uprising insurgents, living underground like a rat. To get power, you need to ally yourself with the people in power. And who cares if other people get hurt? It's never been his problem, ever. Why would it start now? And so we shift forward to him just brazenly, of course, the new fashions, but brazenly walking up to what I imagine is maybe still the manor, like where the royals live. I don't know. I'm sure that's changed in 300 years, but it doesn't matter. He talks his way in because that's the one thing he still has, even if his cult is gone, or maybe not. He'll figure out later. Even if everything else is gone, he still has this because he's still beautiful and still charming. And he walks right up. Miss Theodora, Miss Victoria, I would like to offer you my services. And we cut.
To a manor house, shattered and broken, windows that have been boarded up. Inside, you can see portraits. There are wallpapers that are peeling. It's where Hargrave House used to stand. Now it's just a shell of its former self because everything's gone underground. We're talking the real underground, baby, the London Tube, where there is a swinging, like, new, like, think We Happy Few style retro futurist 60s lava lamps and just different colored beanbag chairs, and it's swinging. It's fantastic. The monkeys are playing. But this time, instead, the monkeys are like this, like kind of like retro futurist revolutionary band, maybe. Who knows? Um, moving along the London Tube, uh, the Hargrave House Irregulars has formed along because, as we know, every time that the employer gets retired of the factotum becomes a servant of Hargrave House. And so that is what Langfisk is serving. This lone hunter whose only memories are of Lord Grey, this person that saved him when he was young and down and destitute in the streets of London. He's lived in London his entire life. Isn't that right? Because all he's known is Lord Grey, and it's always been London. And so he loves London, and he's gonna do whatever he can to bring back the London that he remembers, that grimy, beautiful London. And he's gonna do it against Queen Victoria, against Lord Grey if he has to, that blue bitch Theodore Brathwaite, it doesn't matter. And he's got like these descendants. It's not even like Limbo High anymore and Kip Longfellow. It's just the descendants have formulated this underground network, very John Wick-esque. But remember, it's the swinging 60s. You have to remember, it's the swinging 60s. Okay, it's right before disco. Disco hasn't come yet. There's knee-high boots involved, mods and everything. And we just see Langfisk behind a table, like a war room. There's just clouds of smoke everywhere. Collarless shirt, a fest with fringes, round circular glasses like this, and like a cowboy hat that it's pinned up on one side. It's very Crocodile Dundee-esque, and just trying to track the movements of the Queen's patrols. Yeah. Well, yes, very Clockwork Orange. Langfisk and his druids, exactly. Yes.
Langford says, you sit there with the irregulars. I think you hear good morning, irregulars, come in a soft, feminine voice over the radio. Let's go back a couple hundred years. About a week after we are all cast into the Waitley camera, Hope has been wandering around the house. There's a letter from Knox that was left on her bureau. Says, we should be back soon, but if we're not, drink these. And there's a weird concoction in each of the bottles. And we see as she picks up each bottle, Knox, under the guise of regular medical checkups, extracting biological matter from each and every single one of you, and creating a different concoction for them. Let's just go around real quick. What core memory does Hope learn from Lord Grey when she drinks your biological matter?
I think she learns how to be ruthless, because there's actually, like, I'm going to use a thing that's like the only thing that I had on me throughout this entire sort of weird Gossamer Realm thing was the Mask of Tragedy. Narrate a time that you took pleasure in the suffering of others. And she gets to watch him climb the social ladder by purposefully destroying people socially, sometimes physically, and never once being remorseful, and sometimes enjoying it. And it, weirdly enough, kind of harkens back to the Sally No-Face party. It feels familiar. Kind of warm and nice.
Langfisk? What happens when Hope drinks your bottle?
She learns the qualities of loyalty. And sees that in not just major sweeping gestures like fighting children to support Lord Grey, or doing things like tracking down Rick Miller and like trying to do it in a way to like protect him but hunt him. But in small ways, the moments where Langfisk would set out breakfast for Septimus, even though Septimus probably didn't even notice, just like the small things, that quiet labor that happens. Um, those times where Knox had found that maybe there was some coffee that had been replaced, that had gone a little bit cold and it was warmed up, and things that she learned of, like, there are people around you that are going to want to work and they're busy, but they sometimes need a helping hand, and it can be something as small as just replacing water in a glass, which is what I want to go do for my dog right now.
Septimus or Tim?
Despite everything, having a heart in darkness, and that memory of fastening a body for the creature of Cremore Gardens, despite misleading it, it was coming from a place of care and being creative and using the strengths that you have.
As she drinks the bottle from Knox, she sees the first time that he tried to attempt to bring a person to life, an abject failure, a quivering mass of flesh and blood that stretches and groans but doesn't quite attain life. And she sees Knox pouring that living yet unliving flesh into a giant glass terrarium. I think we see over Hope not age very quickly. She seems to maintain her youth throughout the years, slowly learning and using the lessons from different members of Hargrave House to augment herself, to bring on new hunters, to keep the spirit of Hargrave House alive even as it moves down into the tubes hundreds of years later, connecting herself to a giant sentient living computer until we hear a ding on a speaker that says, "Good morning, irregulars."
Fantastic. That concludes our campaign of The Between. I hope you enjoyed our stay in Victorian era and cyberpunk London. And I think we'll go ahead and just go to series debrief, stars and wishes if you want, but series debrief. We've had what's like 15 sessions, I think.
Something like that. I don't know.
Something like that. Yeah.
Some mini sessions thrown in.
Yeah. Just a really good time. I since you all just did a lot of role playing, I'll start and just say that. Well, I'll start with some individual stars for just this session. I have to say, I did not. I kind of had this idea really briefly that when you all settled on the Waitley camera entity being a spider, I kind of had this like brief flash of like, oh, wouldn't that be funny if it was Septimus, somehow, like, and I love, Vyn, that you did that, and like, because when you look back on it in hindsight, it makes the whole finale have a different meaning and a different, like, it completely reorients the whole thing, right? And I'll probably be thinking about that for a couple of days, like pondering like what things really meant when that was all going on down there with the Six and all that stuff, and what the final confrontation was, what was really going on there. And so I just really loved all that. That was just a great star for that, because I love it whenever like a story kind of like leaves you wanting more, and that's kind of what I was trying to do with this cyberpunk future thing, is kind of leave you all wanting more, and not truly like ending it with Theodora, right? But but that makes me want to know more, right? Like that kind of like it leaves questions in my mind, and so I really love that. Fantastic Janus Max that we got today, on par with everything we've been getting for this whole campaign. That's a star for the whole campaign as well. This was some of the best, like flashbacks, especially of a campaign of the Between I've played. Just loved all the flashbacks and stuff, and but I'm gonna try to restrict myself for the moment to just like this finale, stars and wishes, or just stars, I guess. Loved saving Lord Grey from the White. That was amazing. Really, really good scene. And it was very fun, and like it felt really cool. And I was like, should we explain how Langfist got there? No, of course not. Like, like who cares? Like it's just like he's there. So that was really, really good. Star for the costume change. I did not know you all were going to do that. So that was super cool. That was super cool. Love the costume change. It was great. And star for the whole hope thing. That was fantastic. I like to imagine like in the future they have done hope as an acronym and it stands for something.
Yeah, absolutely. whatever bio computer she's turned into.
Yeah. It's called the Hope. Yeah, HOPE. Yeah.
Chad, if you want to come up with some good acronym, go ahead.
What does hope stand for? Yeah. Really, really good. Just a great time all around. Very happy with how this went, and it was very exciting. Loved seeing Lord Grey and the heel turn at the end. That felt like it was always coming, and of course the reflection required it. So that was fun to see how it worked out. That was still fun to see, and it was a surprise in the sense. Just good time all in all. I'll have some thoughts about the whole campaign, but I'll let you all speak.
It was fun. I had a good time. Jason, it's in a lot of the high moments. It was I had to emotionally prepare myself, and I didn't like it came up last week. I was like, shit, what if like I don't know if anybody else did this. I'm just kind of curious. But like it was great that you just immediately went to like this is a heel turn. I loved the like strong direction. I loved obviously in this new world, I'm just a baddie now, like totally for Grey. I did spend time this week thinking, fuck, what if Lord Grey begs for forgiveness from Nox? What would I do? Because I was like, that's such an important moment. And like I said, I don't know if anybody else, but like, it was literally like, I thought about it probably 3 times this week for probably about 5 minutes each time. I just love that you went straight.
I'm honored, by the way.
Yeah. Well, no, like, because you, like, I mean, part of me is like, man, you want that moment to be good for that episode. Like, how would Nox respond in that situation? But it was great. I also loved, like, I caught it. It wasn't on stream, but just like the short non-interaction that you and Wes had over it, like, and the like, where you were like, we're not going to talk about this, right? Like, because here, like, I know what I'm doing, you know what you're doing. That's what matters. Like, and it was really cool to see that. I almost was like, did I want to interject before Wes? But I loved the pairing of that moment, and I also just loved the like immediately into high culture, immediately into like 1960s revival that Wes brought back in, and like Wes putting on the hat really, I think, set the tone for like us all deciding like, oh yeah, no, we've got a fucking costume change. I don't know if Vyn saw it or not or made it into their decision. It was also just really great, like Vyn, the frequency element and like it being like a womb. Was like such an easy statement, like when we were falling, but like my mind was already like, what temperature is it? Like we're in a cold, high elevated environment. So you saying womb and being like, God, I fucking love that, because that just means it's just flesh and flesh and flesh, and they're like it being the same. Like doesn't matter, but for me was like a really resonant moment that mattered and really stood out. And I loved that you got double advantage, and I loved that it also just still barely scraped through. That was great. Jason, what a great session. I don't know how I feel about being thrown 300 years in the future, but I love the surprise of it, because I don't think any of us had that on on a bingo card. And when I jokingly said, tune in next week for public access Brighton, like a couple people in chat really popped off and got excited, and more like the between 2290, but still it was super great turn, and I do want to unpack that later, but we can come back to that. I just don't think it's what any of us would have expected. And then there's just so much of this session. Like, you had some very specific beats, but most of it was just letting us have freedom to explore the ending of this, and you kind of stepping back as a keeper and allowing that to happen within those confines. And I think that's actually one of the most challenging things. Like, your statement of, like, I almost thought about doing this thing. It would have been cool, but it's so much better that Vyn did it themselves, and that comes from you stepping back and just letting the players have their moment. And that's such a hard skill to master. So that's probably my star.
I want to give a shout out to our working together to get that final question kind of together with all these kind of like weird, arbitrary type clues. I think it was very cool. We really star to Vyn for really kind of taking the reins during like the confrontation with Spider Tim. Like of like you kind of like setting that off, like kind of just being like, no, I'm eager. I want to get in there. I've got this double advantage. Let me get in there. And I think that really kind of like it's like, yeah, that I can definitely tee off and then we can bring like Noxon up in the rear. And I think that also kind of even subconsciously set the tone for how future London was going to be, because noticeably Lord Grey does not do anything to take on the entity or anything like that. Lord Grey kind of takes on a more like backseated kind of tone.
Yeah, I noticed that. Lord Grey just kind of waiting in the wings. Yeah.
During the costume change, I was really hoping that you would have Tim do this kind of like Doctor Strange, or this kind of like, I don't know, just that character of like, we have to fix it. We have to find a way back. We have to. There's these different possibilities, and there's a way that we did this right, and I have to find it. I really love that kind of like. It's a very good open-ended character. That's a. If I did a sequel campaign to this, then that character would be a major NPC that I would introduce later, like as like somebody's like, that's my PC, and I'm like, I don't think you can play this as a PC anymore. I think this has been upgraded to a side character now. But no, like, I don't know. I think there's like it's really cool implications for Tim, a major NPC or a mastermind even. Yeah, like Septimus is a mastermind. That's such an interesting concept. B, uh, when we went to break and it's like the what you're gonna do, our epilogues and everything like that, I had no time to think of like what I was going to do. I went to Bran and I was just like, I'm just gonna see what B says. It's kind of like that thing of like, however B kind of like words it, that's what I'm gonna go with. And you setting that kind of like tone of like, this is what Lord Grey would do mechanically. Me doing this because this is what happened with my masterwork, this means that you're released from my service essentially. And I was like, oh, so I'm an NPC of Hargrave House then. So that, and like that made it very easy. Whereas like we didn't even have to. It was that conversation that was it, and then that was all we needed to know, and that's all I needed to know. And I was like, I trust, no matter what you decide, no matter what you do, whatever, like I can pick it up and everything like that. Very big improv moment of like, I know you can hold out the stick and everything like that. And I also wanted to like, I was like, that's why I wanted you to go first. I was like, you go first, and then I'll bring that up. And then I know that Tony can bring it around and like kind of hammer it home a little bit more, which Tony, good stuff on Hope.
Which I think you won for Hargrave Operational Protection Entity. I think it's pretty strong.
Yeah.
H period O period.
I was raised on Jack Kirby Marvel comics, and acronyms and alliterative names are my bag. No, but like also like a star to like how you like handled like a battle of wits, your own little ritual of chud that was like a really cool like, and like being like, yeah, he just gets he gets eaten up if he fails. That's it. He just gets eaten up, just gets slurped up. Like you always have like really big swings, and you always have like really drive it like I stole it type characters. And so like it's just very cool just to experience a full campaign with you. Because I only get to experience a short amount of Tony playing CFB with public access. And so this has been very cool. Once again, then I'm so glad that I get to play games with you. And Jason, the launch forward, the 300 years in the you spent 300 years in the Fragrant Void and like dropping these characters. Oh God, it just looks like Terminator. Like this, like the tech noir bar and everything. I don't know, but like, ah, it's so
I
good.
never said how long you've been on that mountain trying to find a way
Yeah.
up, you know?
What's funny is I've been playing Fallout London recently, which is the big Fallout 4 mod where they set a whole entire game in like what is the Fallout universe of London, and that's just what I imagine this is. There's just a bunch of gangs. It's bombed out. There's like dudes wearing techno armor that are like Knights of the Round Table. There's what does this game look like? Somebody write this game. Somebody pitch this to write this for Jason.
A stretch goal for the
for
upcoming
the
between.
between Kickstarter. Yeah, that's my wish. Somebody do this. Yeah, that's me.
Okay. Okay. We'll spend 5 minutes doing this. I know it because you're powerful and you would outlast me. Oh my God. Holy shit. Wow. Wow. This was crazy. This was bananas. Credit to Wes for at least prompting my own costume change with the hat. And then Tony got on board and I said, well, I can't not do it. And Wes said, go do it. I was like, BRB. And I come back and everybody's done. So props to that. That wasn't planned. We just had fun in fifth because you gave us a long break. It was too long, Jason. Speaking of that, 300 years is such a big swing, Jason, and you sold it so perfectly. Like, I have no doubts that you would have, but once again, not on any of our bingo cards. And it was so left field, and then it felt instantly so right. Like, of course, we've been fucking off in another dimension, not handling the mastermind. Of course she won. Of course she did. Why wouldn't she? No one was there to stop her. That works so well. It was so cool. And seeing how everybody responded to it is just delicious. Like, Tim, I love you being the spider is so cool. I know everyone said it. That was the coolest decision you could have possibly made for this epilogue. Holy crap. Like, the vessel's inherently like magically and like does cool shit. You went like so hard. Like, you like pedaled to the metal hard on how cool and weird the vessel could be in this extreme of a circumstance. And I'm glad you got double advantage after Rick's double disadvantage. It felt like a perfect circle. I was so excited for that whole, I was just like, finally. Finally. And yeah, go ahead, Jason. I see you.
An arbitrary new rule that favors me.
Exactly. I loved it so much. I love that this, even though we didn't properly get the coven, this was the coven. A little, like, this was
the finale was the coven. Yeah. It was really more the coven than Theodora, right?
And that really like was very gratifying. Like, when the coven got introduced, I was like, oh man, that would have been really cool to do. And then we did it in the weirdest way possible. Like, the weirdest. I loved it. The star to both you and Jason for the Hisao, that's gonna be in my brain for maybe ever.
It's gonna be your ringtone. It's gonna be
that's gonna be just sort of in there. Yeah, stars to both of everybody's descriptions of shit. Everybody has such vivid descriptions of things. Like, Tony, I really love your flashbacks. It felt very satisfying for you to end with hope because of Nox's arc being all about sort of taking your own father figure's place. And now you are no longer there, and Hope is. And like that is just so delicious. That was so perfect. Like, and the fact that I almost thought you were gonna be like, yeah, let the spider eat me. Like, I almost thought you were gonna do that. Like, that, I just have to say, props to that little timing thing you did, because it kept me on edge for like half of your mask. I was like, wait, is he still gonna do it? Because you can just mark masks. Like, yeah, I thought it was just a dramatic way to go out for a second, and I was like, wow. But that's a testament to how you play characters, and I really love this dude. I felt Hope being the ending for him was the perfect epilogue for him, and the fact that she's a computer now is really cool. Wes, I love having this weird sort of almost like it just inextricably bound together pair characters with you, because I really love having a partner that I can trust to be like, yeah, just take the narrative and roll with it. Because I know you said that to me, I can absolutely trust you to just do whatever. You can say whatever about my character in a flashback and it works. You can do whatever and it's going to be perfect to roll with, because it's very easy, and I trust your storytelling. That goes for everybody at this table. You're all lovely role players and fellow players, and having this level of trust at a table really makes the storytelling more rich. And I think Wes and I think this particular thing, it needs to have that level, because you can't always have a control of a story that you're both really like. You have to kind of be NPCs in each other's stories. And when you were like, no, go first, I was like, what are you gonna do? Because the fact that you were like, we don't get to see this, all right, bye, like, I think that's even more interesting, that we don't get to see this split off. And the fact that now Langfisk has this agency, despite having lost his memories and only remembering Lord Grey, like, still has, like, sounds to be running this neo-futurist revolution. Like, I did love the 60s thing. That was like the aesthetics of it was perfect. And then Tony just coming in and knocking it out of the park. Like, the pacing felt perfect. Tim like being like, all right, I'm trying to fix it. It's not fixed. And then we shift and we kind of address Theodora just for like 2 seconds. And now it's this, actually what's going on is this crazy underground revolution, and Hope is an integral part of it that stayed. That's so cool. That was delicious. I could keep talking forever. I will not, because
Yeah, there's something super cool about like Knox anticipating that Theodora was going to beat you and essentially planting like a future seed of toppling her, like her resistance with Hope, right? Like I think that's like a super cool way of handling that. I mean, obviously, you know, we sort of learn it in flashback, but it's super cool though. Yeah.
it feels very Knox. It feels on brand. For like, no, he just kind of sort of Sherlocked this.
You guys, we did it. What the fuck? And I couldn't see the last half because of those sunglasses, but at least they were cool. I'm just going to go across the screen as I see it. Wes, what is there to say? We've done it again. Congratulations. I think this is like the least amount our characters have interacted in a game, and I'm not sad about it, because I really enjoyed playing Fisk as a character and his relationship with Gray, and I think that was just awesome. I lied. I'm gonna go from Wes all the way back to B. B, this is our first game together. That's so crazy. We've been talking about it on Twitter forever, and it happened. So thank y'all for letting this happen. Jeez Louise, what an undeniable trademark, copyright, capital bold, just amazing work. Is that no? Okay, there's something flying, and I was like, wait a second. Either way. Just 13 million out of 10. Amazing, amazing work. Jason, I didn't know I could love this game even more. I guess I need a little injection in my vein for Brindlewood shit now. I don't know when y'all are going to put that in the backer kit. I just need it in liquid form. Yeah. Crack from Brindlewood. That's what I need. Just amazing work. I'm in awe and emboldened to be a better storyteller and crafter in general. And I have you to thank for this and this experience. Tony, way to give everybody a final mask, like a mini mask for Hope. That was phenomenal. And it kind of made us like all think about at least one moment or one condensed thing about our characters that made them, and it was so cool. You play in a way that is advantageous, but not like what's a good way to say it?
I'm a notorious CFB power gamer. Like, it's a known
Yeah,
thing.
you power
It's
game, but it's not
narrative power
annoying.
gaming. It's narrative
Yeah.
power gaming. Yeah.
Like some people play for the rush and the feel. You make things happen in a not annoying way. I don't know how to say that like in more formal kind of speak, but great job. I loved it. I love this table. I'm a little emotional, but I'm done. I think that's everything. Great job, you guys. Thank you for this experience, and thank you, chat, for sticking with us and being a part of this experience. I can't imagine any other way for this to be so interactive and fun. So thanks, y'all.
Does anyone have any thoughts on, or was that everybody Star's wishes?
I think so.
It was. Does anybody have any just anything they
I do
want?
have another star for Wes. How
Oh,
fucking
yeah.
great of a call out to be like other OCs and other characters from other between.
Yeah,
season. I
that
was
was
able to
good.
toss in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
chat
yeah.
like,
Like
hey,
that.
list your
Yeah.
OCs that we see. It was a really great
That was
sideways
really good.
stream
Yeah.
move. Also, too.
Mhm.
Also, just to call out, I just want to remind everybody that Hope was built with Rick Miller's blood. Also, too. So it does have every
Oh,
character. in
yeah.
there.
Right. Oh, yeah. Good point. Yeah, I forgot
And
about that. That's
Maker
good.
also,
Yeah.
too. The
That's a pretty good segue into something I want to talk about.
Yeah.
About like the sort of as we kind of think about the series as a whole. Like it actually feels like it was 100 years ago we had Rick Miller, but like,
Yeah.
but I think that just like speaks to like all the places that the campaign went, you know, and like, you know, Rick and Periwinkle got their happy ending, even if no one else did. So that's a good thing. Yeah, this is a super cool campaign. I did so many things in this campaign that I've never done in a campaign before of the Between. I was really like kind of trying things out, and I think part of that is like being on stream. Like there's a sort of I feel this urge to be like more showy than normal in a sense, you know, I guess because it's like I'm actively trying to be more entertaining, I suppose. But so that was really interesting. This was the first time I've ever run a campaign of anything on a stream, on a live stream. And so that was just a really fun experience. And I couldn't have asked for a better group to have that experience with for the first time. So thank you for that. I also want, just as I think back on the campaign, I thought we did intimacy really well at this table, intimacy, romance, sexuality. It was all done in a really tasteful way, in a really respectful way, but also kind of like a really fun way, right? And so I really appreciate that. I mean, I think the game gives you good scaffolding for that anyway, but we did a really good job at the table as far as that goes.
Can I pin something on that? Like somebody who's a games scholar asked me a couple weeks ago, like if you were going to teach about intimacy and romance specifically around like monsters in an RPG, what would you use? And I was like everybody wants you to say Monster Hearts. Like I told them, I was like you're looking for the answer is Monster Hearts. I was like no shade. The Between
But
is
give the
absolutely
Between a go.
the Between is absolutely
yeah.
because the vulnerable move also sets up intimacy in a broader sense. It opens up intimacy in the particular sense that people think about it also too really well. Sorry.
No. Well, I think this it's interesting. It's an interesting thought because I'm a noted Monster Hearts stan. I love Monster Hearts, but I do think that like there's something different because I think like the Between is like so much more. It's like more adult, I think, than Monster Hearts is, right? Like it's the characters are more adult for one thing, but also I just think that like Monster Hearts is all about like characters who are figuring themselves out and who don't know what is what when it comes to their bodies and to sexuality and all that stuff. And that's great. It's a really fun thing to explore in a game. But like the Between, the characters have a confidence to them, right? Like they know what they like, they know what they're here to do, And so you get to kind of like explore this idea of intimacy in a way that is much more like kind of adult oriented, I would say. And so they're definitely like two different things. And but yeah, I've always been very proud of the fact that The Between is an adult game, right? Like it is a game that treats the players with a certain level of respect and says, you can do this. We're all going to do this, and we're all going to be cool. So, and we're going to be awesome, and it's going to be great. And so, yeah, I'm really happy that that resonates. Any other campaign thoughts? Anything anyone wants to share?
I have lots of campaign thoughts.
I have so
overall
many.
campaign thoughts. Yes. Tony, would you like to go first or me? We're both yappers.
We can alternate. I think I just want to pick up on something Jason said because it is one of my core things, and some of them we know because we talked about them on stream, right? Like we know that this was your first time halfway through moving to the skinny jeans version of The Between and starting to move from that. You mentioned doing a lot of things you hadn't done before, and like being on a stream, that skinny jeans transition. Like, are there what other beats for you, or just things you haven't done before? And I say that not as this is a weird question to ask, but like I've shared this like on stream and with you before. Like sometimes I'm like, man, there's this really delicate mix that you have of always doing things the same because you run it a lot, so they're consistent, but then always making different choices. Like it's still fun. Like I listened to the first couple episodes of the Ain't Slayed Nobody podcast, but I'm getting to go back through it, and it's different characters, but it's still like Limehouse. Like I'm still in the Limehouse Lurker, like the very end of that right now, right? So I'm on episode like 5 or so. So they still haven't diverged that much, right? And there's these beat moments that are similar, and it's fun because it demonstrates what's great about the Between CFB games, Car from Burn, like all the things that you've been designing. Getting to listen to the two things in tandem, experiencing one, doing the other is great. I don't need you to give a beat by beat of all the different things you did because that's endless. But like, were there things that you got to be surprised by or that you did in this campaign that were really delightful for you or that you just enjoyed? Could you mention them, maybe a few of them?
Oh, it's a great question. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, definitely. I think the one thing that I did like I in this campaign that was maybe like so that Ain't Slayed Nobody campaign, really good actual play. Everyone should listen to it. It's super, super good. But it is really like this sort of like what I would call like the platonic ideal of The Between. Like it is gritty London. It is vampiness. It's sexiness. It's blood. It's guts. It's all those like things. And this was a lot of that too. But I think what's different about this campaign is I took like bigger swings in terms of like the scope of everything. There's a sort of like restrained version of The Between, which I think is the game as written, where you would not be like plummeting into other timelines and dimensions and like all that kind of stuff, right? Like you wouldn't be doing that, right? You would not be like, going through a dungeon crawl essentially in the finale, right? Like there's a lot of things that wouldn't happen. And so that was definitely one thing I did differently. I also was more willing to kind of just say, I'm gonna do whatever I want to do with the rules. It's my game. I'm gonna fucking do whatever I want to do. And like it's like I'm not just the keeper. It's also literally my game we're running. And like so I was like in the very beginning, like putting all those weird rules on Rick and the werewolf transformation and stuff. Just to kind of like just to kind of push things and see where it would go. Also, I was doing a little bit of like. I was doing a lot of like on the fly play testing in this campaign. So, because I do want to change the quickening move on the American, and I do want to change some stuff with the child, and I do want to change kind of how the mastermind works. And so I was, it's interesting that I chose this like live performance version of running the game as my chance to try new shit out and just do completely unheard of things. But I really enjoyed it, and I trusted all of you as players. I realized pretty quickly that you'd all be able to handle whatever I threw at you. But also, I trust myself as a keeper. Like I know what I'm capable of doing. Like I mean, it's my first time running a game on stream, but it's probably, I don't know, I've run hundreds of campaigns of games in my life, right? So I definitely know what I'm doing as far as that goes. So yeah, there was like a sort of looseness and a kind of just taking a big swings that I wouldn't normally do, right? The Ain't Slayed Nobody one is like run very close to the rules, right? Like there's no deviation from the rules in it, and that's great. That's the intention of it. But at this one, I was kind of wanting to be a little bit more like playful with it and try some stuff out. So.
No. I loved it, and I also am super honored. Just like this is a space for designers. So you coming in and like play testing stuff live and taking those risks, like it's exactly what we love to see on Plus One. And so like it was great to have you come in and pick that up and just do it too. So
So cool.
that was a question, but it was B. What did you have?
That was a great question.
Oh no, I just wanted to say this was my first time playing with all of you except for Wes, who I have played with before, and I just wanted to say I am in awe of everybody's like play technique, like how you craft story, Jason included, in getting to experience that in real time. It's fascinating because I can see everybody craft the characters in the story slightly differently and all masterfully. And I just want to say that's like a series note of like getting to watch people create these really satisfying stories on the fly. It's really cool. Like even though Wes, you like pre-wrote some of your masks, which in letters, which was, I gotta say, that was so cool. That was so cool. But like everybody creating this story on the fly together, live on stream while playtesting stuff, that was, I'm just really impressed by the skill level at this table and very honored to be here. And I wanted to note that the character building and the world building is just delightful. And I think it's also a testament to the Between on how much it gives players permission to world build with the Keeper. And I really love that about CFB games in general. And I think this game was a really cool way to show that off, because it was a big deal about how, like, what we all added. And you as a keeper are incredibly talented and we're like, yes, and here's how it's wilder, or here's how it's not advantageous to you in a fun way. Like, absolutely, I love that about this game and this table.
Yeah, this is really interesting because I think this campaign is. I'll look back on this in the future because it sits squarely in the middle of the version of the Between that we published in 2021 and the version that we're gonna publish in early 2025. Right? So it's interesting that like it was right in the middle of like these two things. It's its own thing. Like it kind of
We're
exists.
the between.
You're the between the betweens. I know.
Oh
The
my
between the
gosh.
two betweens. Yeah. So it's interesting to me.
Oh my god.
There will never be another Between campaign run like this one
There we go.
because of its in the middle transitional nature. Yeah.
We're special. We're so special.
Wes, I'd love to have you talk a little bit more about the letters, if you will. Like, I think that was such a
Loved it. So good. Yeah.
yeah, it was such a moment at the table when you started doing it that like everybody like, I mean, if we'd all been in the same room, you would have been looking down at your piece of paper, and we would have all been like looking at each other like, what's happening? Like that was like it was such a good.
Well, and before you dive into that, Wes, I want to say something that I always I do every chance I get. Every chance I get, I like to emphasize that just because the rules of the Between say you are not to talk about your character's backstory in or out of character until prompted to do so, does not mean that the Between does not love backstory. The Between adores character backstory. What I want you to do and what the game wants you to do is what Wes and well, everyone did to some degree, but Wes definitely did, like literally writing and preparing Mask of the Past flashbacks in between sessions, right? Like it's the literal thing people love to do. Like, let me tell you about my character and like writing tons of stuff, except doled out over the course of the whole campaign and at specific times. And so I just want to throw that out there. I always like to emphasize the Between loves character backstory in this way, right? Sorry, Wes, go ahead.
No, that's something that like when playing this, I wanted to play it earnestly and like read the books with the read the rules with the book as it's written. Like I've also like I have as like everybody at this table and probably people watching know that like I, inspired much by Daniel Qualls, have multiple games that I'm writing and concepts that I'm writing and stuff like that. So I've become like infinitely familiar with like the step-by-step process of like what is like the tried and true carved from Brindlewood, like Jason Cordova. This is the experience that you should have running this game. Session one. I've run this game a multitude of times with other people. And there's that thing where it's like, now that you've gotten your first session out of the way, your homework as a player is to look at your masks and formulate like a plan, like an outline almost. Like your homework is to start like envisioning what those look like as a character so that they are ready to prepare at some point. And some of them I like to do off the cuff. Like a lot of that stuff, like the back half of the Mask of the Past, those are very of the present. And so I was like, those are going to be a bit more off the cuff. But like the first starting out, like I wanted to explore with this character playing the factotum and everything. Like, I wanted to explore what kind of person attaches themselves to another person in such a way. Um, I have seen so many different great plays of like play styles of factotums. I even read recently for the Pigeon Killers TPK. There was a much more like antagonistic but romantic, like very much more overt non-subtextual kind of relationship between the factotum and their employer, who was the legacy. But like with this, I was like, what kind of person attaches themselves to another person like this in such a servile and subservient way? It has to be somebody that has nothing. Um, and what draws somebody, what kind of having nothing draws somebody to that kind of point of hooking onto somebody? And then that's when I was just like, the guy's Australian. I want to make him Joe Byrne. Joe Byrne is such an interesting character from my standpoint of like the Ned Kelly, the history of the Ned Kelly gang, and everything. This guy who was like, you're not my brother. You're the brother of one of my friends that I did drugs with, but I'm so like enthralled with you, the idea of you, like this magnetic person. And so I am a big believer like history repeats itself, the circle repeats and everything, and it like the wheel turns and it turns many times. But like this kind of person who has a near-death experience and then stumbles across a similar type of person that has that same kind of personality. But this time, instead of somebody that's this rakish ruffian like Ned Kelly was, who was just like, I want to be free and I want to like live in like, I've known nothing but pain and suffering my entire life. I want to be free. But now instead, it's this person who weaponizes that kind of magnetism, and I wanted to explore that relationship, and I wanted to have the dichotomy between how this reverence, this love and this tenderness that Langfist speaks of Ned, my eternal flame, and everything, and saying, and he reminds me of you, Lord Grey reminds me of you. But there's always that underlying just like darkness, and it's twisted and it's malignant and it's love that's being utilized against somebody to get something they want. There's a lot of that playbook is so well written that I think an epistolatory style mask fits very well. I think another playbook that would work with that is probably The Martian, but I feel like having that written as like letters to the parents, to your parents, or something like that. This
Oh,
is
that'd be really good. Yeah.
this is like a letter or a diary, a letter to somebody that has died and everything. And I think that's like such like a
Taking notes. I'm taking notes. That's so cool.
it's like such like a, I don't know. It's just like the there's it's I love characters that have like this one thing that's grounding them. There's this one last thing that's holding them to reality. And I think like that memory of Ned Kelly and that time before is that last thing. And so like being able to remove that in such a thematic way last episode in such like a neat narrative way, like I don't know, it's almost like those letters are just being torn apart and everything. You know,
The
like,
epistolary approach is so interesting to me, and it almost makes me want to do to do an achievement for the Backer Kit campaign.
yeah.
Like adding a chapter about like epistolary approaches to your masks of the past, right? Like that would be really, really neat. I mean, I don't even know if I would write it. Maybe you could write it, Wes. I don't know, but like the idea, because I'm also thinking of when we played the Silk versus role playing game on Sundays, the game that Wes and I are in, Alex is writing plays and like writing scenes of a play for his character whose god is like a theater critic god, right? And like Alex, I look forward to it every time because Alex would like do stage direction and he would like narrate
Alex
it like
sent me a script to read the part of somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah, He would like assign parts for his whatever it's called in that game, the verse of history. Like it was super neat, right? Like it's a really cool idea, and I think that there's something to be said about like maybe even a chapter of like alternate like ways you can handle the mask of the past, you know, depending on which playbook you have or whatever, something like that. That could be a lot of fun. Because I agree with you. Like what the game wants you to do is like you said, after session 1, go home and look at the mask of the past and roadmap it. Figure out your character. Use that as a roadmap to figure your character out and be prepared for that. Kind of on that note, Tony, since we're asking questions of each other here, I feel like this was the most emotional character I've seen you play, the most like grounded in emotion character. I played with you a lot, and I've watched you play things before, and so I guess my question is like, did the Knox, Charlie, Hope, all that stuff, did that come from somewhere with you? Like, was that like did your life inform that?
It all comes from
Or
somewhere.
where do you
I think
that came from?
I think the most bleed conversation is probably like the one we had when we were bringing the child to life, right? Like the kind of like parents and children have weird expectations of each other. I mean, I am a child and a parent. I think that certainly informs it. You know, I do talk about CFP games a lot. Like, I do feel like there's a lot of following, and one of the things I love about it, like I get to follow my character around. Like I get to get surprised by choices my character makes because of the way the die roll and all the different mechanics come. Like I write down, I write out a sketch. You know, there's always at least one dumb, goofy gag thing in it. But I was really attracted to the themes of the mother. I think I really kind of came in pretty hard wanting to play that. I think there was another playbook that was kind of up there, but that was high on my list because I love that themes. I had listened to the Dark and Threshold episode right around that time, but I think I'd already picked it when that episode came out. And so is it all coming from somewhere? Certainly. I think there's a level at which it was really interesting. I love that the playbook is called The Mother. I also liked playing it through
Very intentional choice, right?
Yeah. But I also love playing it through a masculine.
That title is so intentional.
A masculine lens because there's also just so much about abandonment in there, and we do have like not in the weird, like overly politicized way of it, but we do have like a lot of like weird fatherlessness in our culture. Like we have parents who really don't know how to parent. We have kids who aren't allowed to be kids anymore. Like there's a whole lot of that, and you're literally making a pseudo adult like when you make it. Like so, I mean, like as somebody who worked with teenagers for decades, like also too, I'm sure some of my flip the chair around youth minister like background also like comes through in some of that. I did get to consistently be surprised by how worked up I would get when narrating a flashback. I really like picking a framing device of like perception and Knox having to be seen as a thing. I think that's very personal for me. Like I am the kind of person who, this is a weird illustration of this. I throw up very loudly. But I also have to tell people I threw up after the fact. Like I have to like, you could hear me vomit. I could be right next to you and I would have to turn to you and tell you I threw up. Like a lot of my actions, not only as a creator, but like, I don't always know how to be if I'm not being perceived by other people, right? There's a level of like my own faith and other stuff in that also too, but like there's like that's a huge part of it also too that like was really important to kind of understanding Nox, which also does just go back to the dumb original pun of like I have night vision, like that's what Nox Aspectum means, and then just being able to unpack that. That's
I really love it.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I love it. Like as the keeper and the creator of the game, especially, I really love it because, well, so I've talked about this before. Like the sort of 6, 7 with the orphan core playbooks of the Between are all like really personal to me in a different way, right? Like they all have like like there's something personal about them to me. Like that's like role-playing games are my art, right? Like and I when I make something I put a lot of myself in it, right? Like see Public Access, that's like the Jason Cordova role-playing game, right? Like the so like the mother like is like I have a strained relationship with my actual mother, and so the mother orphan like relationship is like really resonant to me as a person because I wrote it that way. And so it's interesting, but what makes it interesting is like other players then get to take that and interpret your art and interpret your experiences and the way you've expressed yourself in this art form in a different way, right? And in this sense, and so in this way, it was really, really fascinating for me to watch your portrayal of the mother, because that playbook has so much meaning for me personally. To see how you interpreted it like was really very special. And yeah, I won't go into how the undeniable and the vessel have little parts of me. But use your imagination. But like
This is a no judgment zone.
but you know what I mean, though, right? Like there's a part of you like in this when you're the creator of a game where like you're making your art and then you have to give that art over, right? And unlike a painting or unlike a song where it's a passive like engagement with that art, like this is a really active engagement with that art, right? So it's just always really interesting for me.
Yeah, no. And it was like I have a lot of thoughts. I know you're reworking the mother. I have a lot of thoughts about it. We can talk about it later. But I loved it. I also do think like it was interesting as somebody like, and I mentioned this earlier, like as somebody who was in youth work for a long time, who also participated in youth ministry as a child, like my primarily male influences were not my dad. Like they were other men. Like, and my dad and I have a really good adult relationship, but it was very distant when I was a child because he didn't know how to have a kid, and I didn't know how to have a parent because I was a child. And so the like there is a lot of that in the framing too. And I wouldn't be surprised if people who are picking up the mother are really interested in exploring some facet of that relationship. I'm sure there's people who are just like, I'm having a fun time with this game and I'm just picking this person who died who I loved. But I think it's such a great place to explore the complication of those types of relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's a I have this like there's this like offline, very trusted friend group version of the Between that I will probably never get to play, but I want to play, where we go into like as hard as we can on the themes of each playbook, right? Like not to necessarily like re-traumatize ourselves in life or whatever, but like just to like really go there, right? Because there are places you can go with each of them that are definitely like suitable only for like private play groups, right? And I hope there are people out there having that experience with the Between, right? We don't ever need to see it, it's not our business, but I hope that there are people doing it, right? Like because there's so much like there's so much implied by the vessel and by the factotum and by the explorer. I have played in games where I've played with people who like they take the opportunity to play the explorer in a way to like really lean into that playbook's quite biting commentary on colonialism and imperialism and say something with it, right? And I just love that. And but I feel like we got super, super close to that with your mother, and I really appreciate it. I thought it was just super cool. Yeah. But yeah, hats off to everybody. What a fun campaign. What a fun experience.
I got a question for Vyn, also too. And that is, yeah. So like my original vision for Nox was like, I'm gonna burn through this fucker. Like I'm gonna I'm gonna mark off these. Then at the end, I'm like, I don't want to mark off these maps at all. Like I love this character. You came in very hard and very like willing to. I mean, some of it, Jason, was trying to kill you, but the but like you were very willing to just let Rick die while still doing all the narrative development. Like, I mean, you were ready to toss the character away.
Such a good decision.
Yeah, in the first session. Like, can you talk a little bit more kind of about that, how you came in? You were the only one who moved from one character to another, what that was like in play?
I love, setting the tone and raising the stakes. Like, as much as I love Rick, I still say that, like, to my friends who watch, I miss Rick Valley. But I'm fine with letting a character go if it feels narratively important. Like, if it was any other way, maybe not. But at that time, it set the tone, raised the stakes, and made things feel dangerous. And I'm fine if that's my character. I had that happen before in another Between game where I had switched from the factotum to the undeniable. Isn't that silly? So if it's anyone, it has to be me. That's fine. It was great. I do think it was fun that I kind of went on both, like on the binary of gender. I was like, wow, I went from an AFAB trans person to an AMAB, like agender. And I was like, oh, that wasn't even intentional, but it was great. I don't think I lost anything like too important. I think Tim was a great pickup character to run the rest of the game with, and I don't know. I think that was it. Like, it happened the way it happened, and I'm glad it did.
That's great. Love it.
Yeah, I'll second that completely. Like I think it's always such a bold choice to like decide midstream to like let your character go. And it takes a real it takes a very like I don't know what the right word is, but like it takes a very thoughtful person and approach to role-playing games to be able to say this is the best thing right now. The best thing right now is to let this character go because it's going to create the best story right now. And I love that. I love that thinking because it absolutely takes the origins and typical understanding of the hobby and shakes it to death in order to get to a better place, which is I have to make my character and they have to last 20 levels and I have to protect them at all costs, right? There's something really really refreshing about a player who's willing to like do the thing that makes the story best, right? Even if that means like letting their character go, right? And the Between obviously has lots of opportunities for that, right? Like the Between is constantly inviting you to do that, right? And I love it when a player has the like, it's not always the right move, but when the player knows it's the right move and goes for it, I think that's really great. And even when Rick was, off the table as a player character, we still had like several sessions of like Rick being there, right? It wasn't like Rick was like out of mind. Like, no, like it all had like it even gave us what I thought at the time would end up being like kind of a really cool like mid-season finale, right? Like kind of seeing Rick, riding off into the sunset with Periwinkle, right? And those Rick and Periwinkle scenes are still they remain some of the best from the campaign, right? Like those were some of the absolute best scenes in the campaign. And so yeah, I loved all that. Like I mean, even though Rick was retired early, we got a really full character arc with Rick, right? Like it wasn't like Rick's story was cut short, which I think was really great.
I just want to chime in and say I think that takes a really good storyteller to be willing to and knowing when is right to kill off your character or retire them, even because Rick didn't die. He actually is probably the only one who ended up happy. But I just want to kind of like throw my little hat in the ring of saying I think that takes somebody being a really good storyteller to know when is right and when is not like good for the narrative and like no, I need to save this character because it doesn't feel satisfying. But now it does. Let's retire them. Chef's kiss.
I have one more question, but does anyone have any more thoughts? Anything else they want to say? Wes, you got anything?
No, I mean, I wanted to echo something that was said earlier. The chat has been like a really cool implementation.
Yeah.
I got to experience some of that with Monstrous Business, the Alex's Critical Failsafe game where I played an American with that, and we had a chat, but like I think not even as like we didn't have like as like hard with the engagement as this chat has been, which has been like very cool to see like familiar people week over week doing this and sticking with this and kind of watching with it. It's like I love that element of actual play, the live stream stuff like that. So it's like I don't know, like it almost feels like a more wholesome version of the determine whether or not Jason Todd Robin dies kind of thing, but it's
Oh my
like
god,
determine
exactly
a
this.
clue or help do the paint the scene or something like that. I don't know. It's great. It's great.
I was delighted by how well CFB's like mechanics and procedures and stuff like work in the chat stream context.
Yeah.
Right? You know, like
Yeah.
there's a lot of places to get chat involved, which is super cool.
Yeah. I mean,
There's a lot you could see with like public access with like having like almost like a was it like a fundraiser where it's like call now with like phone banks and it's like your amount of bits that you vote with and everything can help determine what happens in this TV Odyssey like fundraiser kind of type thing. I don't know, like the multimedia aspect of it, it really has my brain churning and moving
yeah.
of like for not just the between or public access, but like also like the Silt verses and like what does it look like when like recaps for a Silt versus audio drama of the role playing game, which is a podcast that's based on a podcast, but it uses recaps of like a Prairie Home Companion style, like kind of like radio program.
Someone should make a Silt versus Faith sheet that is only playable on stream,
Yeah,
and that character's god is the chat.
is the chat.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
That's a great.
Wouldn't
That's
that
like
be amazing?
yeah. That's
Chat, is this
fantastic.
real? Chat.
Yes. Oh
Sounds
my
real.
god.
Where that would be
Okay,
amazing,
chat.
and all
Please?
the moves are like you have to go to chat. Like that would be incredible.
Yeah, that's
My
fantastic.
god.
That's
Oh my
fantastic.
god.
Oh God, that there's a lot you can say about that. Oh Lord,
I'd
terrifying.
commission that if somebody had a great
Yeah.
like implementation. That's like I think it's a great idea if I do say so myself.
I
Go ahead, Wes.
but also just like one last thing I want to say is like seeing Jason kind of like and all of us kind of like actively game design on stream and kind of like talk about this and everything like that. Like I think it truly like does and it's why I go to bat for the system so hard, especially when there's people that like and like at Gen Con I met people that are like, I don't like the CFP system. I'm like, I don't know if you've actually really played it or like you've really had like a chance to opportunity to like kind of play it at a table where like you get to open it up. Like I don't know, it's just like playing at a table with people like this with a game like this sends my brain into places that like it hasn't been to before where I'm just like, oh, I can do this with these parts and I can make something that scratches an itch that I never thought could scratch an itch. To the point of being like, what does that like retro futurist, very British, like Anglophone cyberpunk game look like? Like, what does that look like? I want to see that. I don't know. It's why I continuously go and I'm like, I don't know. It's just a very good foundational tool set to
I
build
have
games.
been I have been waiting for a cyberpunk neon noir investigation CFB game for as long as I can remember.
I
Like,
soft
I
pitched the near
can't,
future one to you at Writers Retreat next year. I just asked if anybody was working on one. I think it's such a
can't
right area.
it's a perfect game idea, right? Like the only better CFB game idea, in my opinion, there's two equal or better ideas which no one's done yet. Well, three, but one we're getting ready to do, which is Lovecraftian investigation. But the other two are Magic School and Kids on Bikes. Like those are the two CFB, like that and a cyberpunk like neon noir type investigation thing. Those are the three ideas that like need to be a CFB game, and I'm not going to do it. What?
Jason, well, let me and Bran get you in a pitch meeting where we can talk to you about a licensed IP where we have an idea or a game that is very kids on bikes. It might not be. It actually might be the original kids on bikes. So hold on.
I'm liking that. I'm always on the hunt for a good license. And since we're talking about licensed CFB ideas, I've just finished watching all the Scream movies, and oh my god, like a licensed Scream TTRPG CFB Scream movie would be amazing.
Well,
like,
Jason, let me get you in a pitch meeting. I have some.
But yeah, like there's like so many. You're right though. Like just getting back to your point, like there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with it, right? And I really, if we ever get this SRD done, I mean, it is done to be fair. I just haven't edited it yet. But if we ever put it out, I really hope people take it and do cool things, you know.
So I want to ask a question before we go, and that is about like I've talked about how well you edge players. Like you always do a good job of like letting the stakes ramp up and bringing them back down, right? This is my first time playing through Between, and I loved the ending, so I don't want this to take away from that at all. It felt like a setup, right? It felt like a now we want to go play that thing to what you said, to what Wes just said, like to what chat responded to, like, cool, we want to still know what happens. Like, is that typically how you end a series? How much of that is timing? How much, like, I just want to know if that was kind of a standard way that you end one, where it's like, hey, you have overcome the immediate thing, but didn't really hit the main
leave
thing.
You wanting more.
How much is that? No, like this was incredibly satisfying and great, and so there's zero complaints, but there is all the like, I've only done it once. Is that how it always is?
Oh no,
right?
I've always I usually have like a cleaner ending or like a more definitive ending to the campaign. Usually when I know we're done. But well, I will say one thing that's a little different about this is I know there's not going to be a season 2,
right?
And because of that, I didn't feel.
If we raise $1 million on Kickstarter,
I didn't feel the need to like stay in London though, right? Like whereas like if I have a sense that like there could be multiple campaigns going, I try to keep it really grounded in London so that we can like do another mastermind, right? So Shadow Society, we went to a second unfinished but second season as far as my online games go. So yeah, it's this kind of big weird open-ended
it was great
thing that we ended in was not typical for me, no. And I only did it because I kind of knew that like this was it, right? Like I don't have to come back. I don't have to come back in 2 months and run the Cyberpunk London.
I mean,
between game for you.
It does feel, and I flashed my copy of it, but it does feel very League of Extraordinary Gentlemen because those comics, every single volume of those comics, those graphic novels ended very open-endedly. I mean, like the first one is like you go through the full cycle of that first iteration of the League, or not the first iteration, but that current iteration of the League. It ends, and then it goes like 20 years later, or like even 50 years later. Like by the time they end it, they're in like 1960s, and then they go past that to like 2100 and everything. Like it hops all over the timeline, and none of those stories end with a nice little bow around them.
Yeah. No, like I said, it was really just that was really it. It was not like I said. It's like I don't know how to ask this question without it sounding like, but it's really like that was.
Oh no, I didn't take it that way.
Yeah.
No, I
also just I don't want anybody out there. I don't want any discourse around this later on. It was an absolute blast. I can't wait to play more between. Before we go, two things. One, I'm gonna have you tell people again about the campaign in just 1 minute for anybody who is watching right now but doesn't know or catches this later. Two, anybody out there, and Levi, I'm not looking at you because you're in chat, but I am looking at chat. No, anybody out there, if anybody wants to do supercuts of any of the mask lines, the child line, anything like that from the thing, I would figure out a way to give you money if anybody wanted to go back through and find all those moments. I don't have time to. But I would love to have supercuts of any of the masks things from this series. And so, anybody who's interested in that, reach out, let me know. We'll figure it out because that's work, but I would love to see some people pull some of the pieces out of that, because I also would just love to see what that was like in order to. Jason, why don't you tell people about what's happening and what's coming up with the Between?
Yeah, so we are on the nearly on the precipice, as it were, ready to step off like the fool into our backer kit crowdfunding for the Between on September 24th. We're actually, as of this recording, our paid marketing push begins tomorrow morning. So I suspect you're going to see the Between everywhere starting tomorrow. But that said, we would love to have you come show up and help us out, get this over the line. We are crowdfunding 3 books. The core rule book. This is my background is actually the texture or the art of the core rule book that's wrapped around it. The core book is greatly expanded. It's about 100 pages longer and includes somewhat revised rules. There's some things where some pretty significant rules changes, but it mostly will play like you're accustomed to in the original edition. But nevertheless, revised rules. The mastermind's going to work a little differently, for example. But otherwise, it's pretty well the core Between experience. But revised, expanded, a lot more advice on running the game. We're going to have all the stuff that previously just existed on printouts and handouts in the actual book, which people will appreciate. And we'll also be revising the threats and stuff to kind of to just, we've learned things about them, and there's different things. I'm adding in characters that I always like to add in characters that I've kind of developed over the years and kind of make them official characters. So things like that are going to happen. I am 100% adding in the very first mystery a mortuary location, because everyone goes to the mortuary, even though it's not in the threat sheet. So I will be adding that. So yeah, we're making some changes to it. It's going to have everything that comes. So it's going to have the 7 core playbooks, 6 plus the orphan. And then it's going to have the original 10 threats that the 2021 version of the game came with, plus the King in Shadows, which is Alex Rabitsky's threat, is going to be added into that core experience as well. And that's what you get in the Between rulebook. Also, tons of artwork. I am commissioning. We already have something I don't know, nearly 60 pieces of full color art before we even launched, and we've commissioned 70 more. I think when it's all said and done, we're going to be in the neighborhood of 150 illustrations across all 3 books. So I'm really excited about that. Lots of artwork and stuff. The second book is Shadow Society, which is just all the extra stuff for London. So new playbooks, new threats, new masterminds. It's also going to have a very big section about Hargrave House, the house itself. So Hargrave House becomes kind of its own character in the game. It will also have basically if you play a second campaign, it's your Hargrave House that kind of keeps going, right? Your hunters might change, but Hargrave House is what's changing and building as time passes. So you have some things that kind of happen there as you play. And so Hargrave House, we explore Hargrave House in a much deeper way in Shadow Society. And then Sons of Another World is the third book. That is going to have 3 brand new campaign frames. The Between Ghosts of El Paso, which we did release a few years ago and has been really well enjoyed. We're going to be updating that and putting that in Sons of Another World. We are going to have the Between Unsinkable, which is Wes's setting that takes place on a transatlantic voyage between London and New York. And then we're going to have Court of Wolves, which was hinted at in this campaign, actually. But basically, it's a collection of werewolves, nobles, and Satanists trying to overthrow Louis XIV. So, and you are the people protecting Louis XIV from those people. So that is the thing. We have 2 other possible settings that are going to go into Sons of Another World. It will depend quite a lot on how much money we raise. So we will have achievements for 2 possible other settings going in the book. So come support us, get us to those levels. We've got loads of achievements to unlock, so many, but we're not going to do any of it if you don't show up and pledge. And so we will very much appreciate your support.
And if you're just coming in from the raid from over on Cassie Mothwin's channel, which Cassie is funding Tangled Blessings over on Backer right now also too.
Funded yesterday, right?
Correct. Yeah. Launched yesterday. Launched on Tuesday, funded yesterday. Still going. If you are a Backer Kit fan, go to ttrpg.link/betweengame. Check out the upcoming launch of the Between over on Backer Kit. We just finished a 15-ish part actual play series. This was our finale episode. Tangle Blessings, Echoes of Lost Electives. And I'm really excited about the Between Tangled Blessings crossover adventure. That's not
Feels like a really easy idea.
It feels
right?
like a really
Feels
easy idea.
This is something that should happen, right? Yeah.
Mutual achievements.
We need a weird school in the Between.
That's right. Some
Yeah,
weird school.
speaking of-
Another weird school. Not just one where destitute children have to work near vampires. And so,
No.
but yeah, if you haven't followed that, head on over to Backer Kit to check that out while you're checking out the Between. Also, too, I'm gonna get back to moving, but we do have some cool stuff coming up. We just, if you haven't checked things out yet, go check out the series that B just finished on our stream of Campfire Scouts. All 3 of the episodes are up that they had done. It is, if you like Carve from Brindlewood and you like our house system, down we go. And you like Stranger Things, check out Campfire Scouts. It's a really great system that blends in some CFB tech into our house kind of old school system and throws
And
kids into a weird,
aliens.
creepy camp. Go ahead, B.
And I just said and aliens.
And aliens, because y'all played at Space Camp.
They have a bunch of cool settings in it, so
Yep.
you should go play it.
And then next week we actually have another game that Keegan is in the middle of writing and trying to avoid ever publishing, called Blister City. But we are going to be playing Blister Kingdom using Down We Go rules. So if you're interested more about that, starting next week, I think we're going to do a 3 or 4 part actual play stream starting on September 11th. We got a lot of cool stuff. Check out Zine Club if you haven't, RPGZine.Club, where we put out a couple different zines every single month. It's a great way to support the channel. We also have an amazing zine fiend who's been here on stream with us the whole time in disguise. That's Wes Franks. But more than anything, if you've enjoyed this, you need to go to ttrpg.link/TheBetweenGame. This has been an absolute blast. We aren't even going to end in our normal way. I'm just going to say thank you, Jason, so much for coming on. Thanks for partnering with us on this. We look forward anytime we get to do something with the Gauntlet. Thank you, Vyn. Thank you, B. Thank you, Wes, for being a part of this. Absolutely loved getting to play with y'all. So until we get to play again, we'll just say farewell for now. Bye, everybody. Cassie has 5,000. Everybody can still hear us. Nobody can see us. Cassie says, I have 5,000 channel points, so I'm using this effect. Cool stuff on this channel. I don't know what any of it is, but that's great.
I love that for us. I love that we got a raid in the last 15 minutes. No notes. 10 out of 10.
Yep.
Perfect.
And they have 45 plus hours of content they can go watch to get caught up on. It's great. Good for them.
Oh, yeah.
Good for them.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Yeah.